Hi everyone. We're here filming again at Home Instead for My Dog and Me. And Home Instead is located on Route 19 in front of the movies in Meadville. And we wanted to continue today with our program on shelters. One of the statistics, and with me, I'm sorry, I want to introduce to you is Kim. Kim, how do you pronounce your last name again?
Lengling.
I can't get that.
Kim Lengling.
And we're going to talk a little bit about her book and some of the things that she's been doing in our previous program, and then add some important information for you and tell you also what our plans are for future programs. So Kim, tell us about the book and how that's going.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me on again. This is great fun. Have a new book that just came out in August called Paw Prints on the Couch. And it's, it's self-explanatory. It's about dogs, and you get paw prints everywhere. But there are 10 different co-authors in this book, and they share their stories of their pets that they have adopted, or their pets just kind of found them. They showed up at their house and they stayed. And they just share how their pets have enriched their lives and just brought joy and love and all kinds of goodness into their lives. So Paw Prints on the Couch, available on Amazon. Get your copy today.
And how much is a copy?
It is $12.95.
Okay.
And every once in a while I do put it on sale, but I don't let everybody know. I just kind of put it out there as a surprise. So you just got to check it out every once in a while. So yeah, get yourself a copy.
And what do you do besides write this book and other things? Give us a
what
quick
do I do?
But what do you do in the meantime?
I am an author, so I coordinate anthologies like this book, but I also write my own books, and I have a podcast called Let Fear Bounce, which is just finishing up its 3rd year. Got just shy of 200 episodes, and all kinds of folks from all over the world on talking about their journey of overcoming fear, fighting through fear, and surviving and thriving and overcoming all kinds of stuff. But so many journeys, and so people have just amazing stories to share. So there's philanthropists on there, there's authors, film producers, filmmakers, all kinds of people on there from all walks of life sharing their story of how they let fear bounce. So that's on Wednesdays.
Do they come to see you in Crawford County, or do you do it through video, or how do you do that? Do
it typically via Zoom, because most of my guests are either not from the United States, or they're from all over the country. So very few local people actually have been on the show. It's been, all over the country, from all over the country. The majority are from the United States.
And they can find out about that by going where? What's your website or whatever to?
Easiest way to find me or contact me is through my website, which is kimlenglingauthor.com. And on there is everything listed on what I'm doing, what I'm up to, what's coming next, and how to get a hold of me.
How many books have you actually done?
About 11.
Oh my heavens.
Journals and books. And I'm working on a couple other ones that will be coming out hopefully mid-year next year, June, July-ish time frame.
And we got hooked up because you had a dog at the time. What was that dog's name? That was
Digger.
Digger. I know. And we had Digger was your dog, and you were using the Bark. And you also were doing something then with veterans. What's that program?
We were doing,
we should promote that
Embracing Our Veterans. Myself and a friend, Tina Scheffelbein in Erie, we founded Embracing Our Veterans, which is a nonprofit 501c3 based in Erie. She now runs that full-time up there. I stepped back simply because life circumstances, but Tina does an absolutely wonderful job, and the volunteers do an amazing thing. They work with veterans that are homeless or soon to be homeless. So tremendous amount of work, love, and effort goes into that. And it's, I think, in its 9th or 10th year now since we founded that, Embracing Our Veterans.
And if they have concerns about a veteran or to help a veteran, they can go to where, Embracing Our Vets online, or what is that?
They can reach out through Facebook.
Okay.
And it's just Embracing Our Veterans, and the contact information is on that Facebook page. Okay. And also, though, just, if you're a veteran, or a veteran that's in need or struggling, just dial 988 and press 1. That gets you directly to the Veteran Crisis Hotline. Don't struggle on your own, because you don't have to. So 988 and press 1.
Okay, good. Now let's go back to our regular program, because that's always great information, especially the hotline and things like that. So we want to talk about shelters, and one of the things that I found out recently I was amazed at, and there was a statistics that I saw that over 7 million homeless animals are taken to shelters every year. That's an awful lot.
That's a lot.
That's an awful lot of dogs. And our local shelters are?
We've got the Crawford County Humane Society, Stray Haven, Because You Care, which is located in McKean, Erie Humane Society, and the Anna Shelter, which is located in Erie, and Crawford County, I'm sorry, is here locally, and Stray Haven is, I believe, in Greenville.
Greenville. I think it's on Donation Road or something like that.
So those are the 5 that are the closest to us.
Okay, so I've always many times started with a purebred or through a breeder. So I come to you and I say, Kim, I'm gonna really go to the shelter and I'm gonna get a dog. And you say, stop. There's some things you better think of first before you even make that decision. So what are the things, the 3 main things that I should be considering, and then we'll break those down just a little bit.
The 3 main things that I personally consider before, because my dogs have all been from a local shelter. They've all been mutts, you know. But the first 3 things I think of is, do I have the time to give them? Do I have the physical ability to give them? Because I usually get larger dogs and they need to be active. And do I have the finances to be able to financially care for them, for the vet visits, grooming if need be. If they're sick, you need medications. Food, you have to feed your dogs. Any of the other stuff, beds, crates, toys, treats, whatever it is that, you know, it all costs money. And so, yeah, time, physical ability, and finances is what I think goes through my head. That's the first 3 things I think of.
And also the unforeseen finances. Because honest to God, it can be a pulled off nail, it can be an ear infection, it can be diarrhea in your house or someplace, or dealing with those little crazy sicknesses that come out. We were talking about that when we got here, because your dog likes deer poop.
He likes to eat deer poop, and he should have learned by now that it's not a good thing to do, because he ends up getting worms.
Right.
And then off to the vet we go. And numerous times, you know, another unforeseen thing, tangling with critters, depending upon where you live. Both my dogs, we live in the country, as do you. Both my dogs, we're out in the field in the woods. They like to tangle with critters. And my dog, Dexter especially, the one I have now, has tangled with raccoons and skunks. And he's gotten bit by them in really uncomfortable places. And he's a male dog, so use your imagination on where he got bit the one morning. And I had to call my work and say, I'm sorry, I have to take my dog to the vet because a raccoon bit the tip of his winky.
Whatever we call it.
Whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, those are unforeseen things you don't anticipate. And those are not cheap dates going to the vet when something like, especially if it's an emergency situation on a weekend. And it always happens on a weekend or a holiday.
I know.
Always.
And most, none of our local vets, although one of them does if you're a client of theirs, but most of the local vets are not open on weekends, and off you go to Erie, to the emergency place up there, or sometimes down to PVSCC, which is down there on 79. And boy, the basic cost there, you're walking in and you're hitting an easy $500, $1,000, $1,500 on a holiday when you thought, oh, things are going well for me. What?
Right.
That's what my cost is? And the dog's there and you got to pay it.
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Okay.
They're part of the family, so you got to take care of them.
Okay, so now I'm deciding I'm going to get a dog, and I'm thinking about a few things. What about the age and sex of the dog? Is that an issue? Is to me.
For me, it is too. For my own personal opinion, yes, it's an issue. You have to see if you have other animals in your house.
Right.
Do you have children? Is this dog going to get along? You know, you're going to want to see if they do get along, if it's going to work well with, you know, maybe an introductory period with the other dogs or animals that you might have. But I prefer male dogs.
I do too.
And there's really no particular reason. I just do. That's what I've always had, was male dogs. And that's just my own preference. But you do definitely want, depends on if you have, you know, other dogs. Do you want 2 males? Do you want 2 dogs that are going to be, you know, alpha, trying to alpha each other out? It all depends. There's, you know, the situations are different in each household, I think. But for me, I prefer male dogs. But I think it's up for each family and household. Take a really good look at how your household is set up with people, other animals, and of course the time, physical ability, and money and all that. Put all that together before you bring, whether it's a male or female, large or small dog into your house.
So when you have gotten a dog from any of the local shelters, what do they tell you about that dog whenever you get that dog? Because I've always had kind of an issue with that.
Well, with Dexter, the one that I have now, he was a stray, and he was picked up by them as a stray. They had no history whatsoever. Okay. So when I got him, he was very skinny, very ill, very, very skittish. You could tell he had probably been abused in some way. So I had no background. With my other dog, Digger, he was just a puppy, and he was 13 weeks old, and he had been adopted and returned twice by the time I got him. And I was like, how? And he was the best dog on the planet, just as everybody. Every dog is the best dog on the planet. Yes. But I couldn't believe it. How could you return a puppy?
That would be so tough for a dog, because they start in a home, they go to a shelter, they go back to, they go to a home, then they go back to a shelter. And that adjustment period is phenomenal for them, because it's so hard. It was just one time from being, with a breeder or whatever, and then moving from there to someone else's home is hard. But boy, those little steps in between.
Think about being in a shelter, how incredibly stressful that would be. It's so loud all the time, and echoing, and cement floor. Yeah, they probably have beds or rugs and stuff, but it's not like a home environment at all. And so many shelters, they do the absolute best they can. But I mean, you have so many dogs, you have to have a setup in a certain way, and I understand that. But for the dog, you've got to keep in mind that they're coming from a stressful situation. Mm-hmm. You can't just think, oh, what a cute little dog, let's bring him home and it's going to be perfect and know exactly how I want it to act. That's just not feasible or rational.
Well, a lot of the county shelters, God love the people that work there, and they do have a good life there, and they do provide whatever they can. What I like is I've always, whenever I've adopted a dog, I did one other time, I actually went to a rescue organization.
Okay.
And I went there, and the advantage of that, and I don't know how many of our local shelters do this, but I know that whenever I was looking into a possible rescue of a collie that I was looking at the time, what they do is, a lot of the shelters, if they do not have enough room, foster them out. And when they foster them out, so I run a shelter and I don't have time for this dog, and I say to my volunteer, Kim, how about taking one of these dogs just for a while, would you? And foster it. Well, her responsibility to a lot of the shelters is to keep track, like a daily log, of everything about that dog. So when the next person comes in to adopt that dog, they get a log of everything that dog has done. I thought it was fantastic. They said how the dog was with children, how the dog was in adjustment, where the dog came from, what had they taught the dog, were there any tricks the dog knew, did the dog know, was the dog housebroken? And sometimes you don't get that information at some of the shelters. You walk out with that dog and it's like, what was I thinking? I don't know anything about this dog. And some of them, and my concern is, I tried this recently, I was looking up something, and a lot of the surrounding states don't have any type of laws that persist as far as any dogs that are in a, what's the word I want to use? A puppy mill. The state of Ohio has an but this is your fact for today. The state of Ohio has a heck of a lot of dogs available for adoption. But you know what? They don't have any rules on puppy mills in Ohio. And a lot of the ones in Ohio are raised in puppy mills and then eventually get sent to a shelter. And now you don't know, did that dog come out of a puppy mill? How many dogs were in the litter? And these are all important things. So a lot of times you don't get that. A lot of times it's potluck.
Yeah. Well,
and that's hard.
It is hard. With Dexter, I had no idea what his background was. I just knew that he was very ill, skinny, skittish, and as I was training him from day one, I realized I had to change my training technique because he would shy away and throw his body on the ground. So I knew that he had been abused in some way. Patience. You have to have a tremendous amount of patience. And remember, they're dogs, they're animals. Just because you're like, oh, what a cutie, oh, I want to bring this dog home. Those dogs don't know what you want, and they're not going to know what you want. So stop thinking that.
When I see people that have adopted a dog and I say, what made you get that dog? What made you get that breed? And they say, the dog was really, really cute.
Yeah.
And it was the last one left out of a litter. And I looked at the dog and I thought, that dog should be with me. I always say to them, are you nuts? You don't know anything about this dog.
You brought up a good point. Breeds.
Oh, God, yes.
That's another thing that we should add on to our top 3, the top 4 things to think of before you adopt a dog. The type of breed, the breed of dog that you get.
Well, of course, many of the shelters are mixed breeds.
Right, and
but what's the
I
mix?
look into it.
Me too.
Yeah.
If
Before I
somebody-
got Dex, I was like, what do you think? Because shelters don't always know. Like, what do you think he is? They told me what they thought he was, and then I did my research and went, okay, it's these two breeds.
Together.
So this one is high prey drive, and this one's lazy. That might make a really good dog, you know? And he's got both. Dexter, he's got the whole laziness, I could sleep 19 hours a day, and then he's got this ridiculously high prey drive, of course, with skunks and raccoons.
Yeah,
and
I've had the
groundhog.
skunk issue several times. And the other thing is the other word that I really want to think about, even though we talked about the time and the physical energy and the money and the breed, the other thing you've got to really be consistent with whenever you get that dog from the moment you get in the car, leave the shelter, is you've got to put that dog's entire life into a routine. Everything has to be the same all the time. Someone said, how do you do, I had 5 dogs at one point. They say, Sue, in God's name, what are you doing with 5 dogs? And I said, it was like I taught school. It was like having my classroom. I had everything done a certain way every day. I fed them in this order. I fed them in this section in the house. We went out in this order. We went out this door and we came back in that door. And everything is like that. And right now I've got this 1.5-year-old nut that I just got from a breeder, and he knew nothing. He was in a breeding barn for 1.5 years, and he took him a while to learn, okay, now we're going out this door and that stuff. Once you can get a routine with the dog, you have a darn better chance of making it work. But if you're someone who's flying in 30 different directions at one time because you didn't plan in advance for what in God's name you're getting into, and maybe you didn't even get a baby gate that you need to block him into a room or anything like that. Now suddenly you're like a crazy person, you're inconsistent, the dog is driving you crazy, you want to grab them and you want to shake them and you want to make them into the perfect dog inside of 5 minutes, not going to work. So set up the routine. I even have everything written down, exactly the routine I'm going to follow, because sometimes I forget what was the step I was supposed to have at this point. And I do it exactly the same every day. When I got up this morning, it was a certain way. I went out, I put them out this door, I brought them in, I fed them, and that's my 4-year-old and my 1.5 years now. But everything, and some people aren't routine oriented. Like I'm like obsessive compulsive, so it's easy for me. I can get myself nuts over doing things a certain way. Some people don't do that, and that's really, really tough on a dog.
And routine that's huge, especially if you have a family and you've got younger children, and you may have more than one animal in your house. Bringing a new one in is going to disrupt things. It is going to disrupt things for a few days, maybe even a few weeks. So starting that routine, like you said, from day one is, to me, it's crucial.
Well, and the other example, most of us now, or many of us now, have a job, at least a part-time job. And suddenly I was dealing with one dog, my 4-year-old, who I had, and boy, she was perfect. Everything was the same. Then I add my nutcase, who's 1.5 years, and now wait a minute, I usually got up at 5 o'clock. Whoa, now I'm getting up at 4 o'clock because now I have to change everything, and I got to back up my whole life because things have changed. And even your free time, consider how much free time you have, because this dog is going to take a lot of free time.
Right.
And you've got to make sure you are covering those things because they're very, very important. So let's talk about, so I've got the dog in the house now. I must have been crazy at that point.
Yeah, dog-proof.
Yeah.
You've got to puppy-proof your house, folks. Puppy-proof your house.
Well, let's talk about the 3-3-3 rule.
Ah.
That's one of my favorites. I think it's on that paper.
3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months.
3 months.
That's the
Perfect.
3-3-3. So you're adopting a dog, and those first 3 days, that dog is scared, probably anxious, skittish, maybe wants to hide under a table or in a corner all curled up. I know my dog did. It's scary for them. They're like, okay, why am I here now? I just came from this really loud, scary place. Now I'm here. It's quieter, but why am I here? Is this person okay? And their poor little brains. They're like they're scared. So those first 3 days, expect your dog to be skittish, anxious, maybe not eating or drinking, maybe not going to the bathroom, or maybe having accidents in the house. Going to the bathroom a lot, maybe having diarrhea or whatever.
Put that into your schedule.
Right, you've got to put that.
You better be home those first 3 days. In fact, you have to be home as much as you can for probably the first 3 weeks or longer because the adjustments are constantly.
Right.
And if you don't do it, you're in trouble.
Right, and don't blame the dog if they have accidents. They're adjusting to a really big change. So first 3 days, then those first 3 weeks, they're starting to settle in a little bit. You're getting used to them. They're getting used to you, how that routine is. You know, hopefully you started your routine from the get-go. They're getting used to that. And then by that 3-month mark, their personality should be coming out. They should be relaxed. You should be really enjoying your time together. And maybe it's not so much you having to be an eagle eye of watching, you know, and do this and do that. Oh, got to do this. It's all kind of coming together by 3 months. And that's typically the time frame. And I know for Dexter, it was literally exactly that. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months.
I'm in a 3-month stage now, and things are getting better. They really are.
It's an awesome feeling because then your dog knows, oh, this is my place. Oh, this is my human. You know, and what a wonderful thing that is. What a wonderful thing that is.
Well, now the other thing is, and usually by the 3rd week or the 3rd month, now there start things that weren't issues in your house before now become issues. So you might have gotten away with letting something laying on the floor or whatever, but once they get comfortable, the pair of shoes that you always put on the floor suddenly be very enticing to them. I did that last night. Cody's never bothered with my shoes. Last night I took a pair of shoes off, walked out of the room, came back, and he had my shoe in his mouth, and I thought, what are you thinking? We haven't had that problem, and you just started now thinking about maybe I'll eat your shoes. So it's a constant adjustment. You've got to just adjust constantly.
No, my dog, it was after 3 months, Digger, this was, years and years ago, but he had settled in, and he was still a pup. He was just a pup at that time, so maybe he was 4 or 5 months at this time. All of a sudden, he started chewing electrical cords. And he electrocuted himself. And I was like, are you kidding me? So we had to go around and figure out how to fix all the cords from the lamps and everything because for whatever reason, he was bound in. He would literally fight you to get to an electrical cord. We have no idea. That lasted like a week or two. Just a little weirdness in his brain. He got zapped. He got zapped good. And he never touched another one. But for those couple weeks that he was insistent on wanting to get to a cord, I mean, he would chew the ends off because we unplugged everything. When we would go to work, we'd come home and the ends of the plugs would be around the house. He chewed them all off.
Wow.
So, you don't foresee that happening.
Well, you have to baby-proof your house when you have kids or whenever your
so you got to puppy-proof,
relatives come to your house for Thanksgiving. And now you better move stuff because kids that come in, you better baby-proof before they come in. Right. How do you dog-proof a house? What are some ideas?
I go by the same way as how I baby-proofed when my daughter was little. Everything up. Everything high. That they can't get to, whether it's their mouth or their tail.
The tail, especially with the labs. They take stuff right off the coffee table.
Yeah, Dexter can wipe a table off in no time. But move everything up high. The electrical cords, you've got to figure out a way to have them hidden or a way that the dogs won't get, because I know my dog's not the only one who's ever chewed an electrical cord. Food, plants, especially plants. Plants can be very, very dangerous for animals. So make sure anything that's dangerous or could be dangerous or break and cause an injury, up high. I always just thought, get it up high. That's my first thought. Get up high, move plants. And electrical cords, that's always been stuck in my head. Make sure, door cabinets.
Door cabinets.
Put baby locks on door cabinets because some dogs like to try and get to your garbage that's underneath your sink. So I still have mine. I have a piece of yarn
on them.
Underneath my thing.
Huh.
Yeah, I still have it there.
And you know what's another good thing to invest in is baby gates.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh my God, I think I have 4 of them.
Yeah.
In my house, and then I put a gate. I have a house. My house is wide open. It's that open style, and I had a hard time. I didn't have anything that was small enough for a baby gate. So I finally had one of my friends come in, and they put an entire fence between my kitchen and my dining room that's about, maybe 2.5, maybe 30 inches high, and that's been there forever. And if people come in or whatever, I can block them off there. But I had no way to block my dogs, and suddenly I thought, oh my God, now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I did that fencing and then baby gates. Oh, they're so convenient. Move them from one place to another and lock them in place.
I have 3 of them, yeah. And I even use them on my deck sometimes.
I do too. I use them, that's something.
Everywhere, yeah. And now that I've got a grandbaby,
There you go.
They're going to come in perfect, you know, between the dog and the baby. So baby gates, it's another good one. Another
Yes.
good one. Absolutely.
Listen, I just thought about something else. Whenever we talked about let's talk about the care of the dog in general. We'll go on to the vets in a second. But some dogs are dogs that are going to shed, or some dogs are dogs that have to be groomed all the time. And there we're talking about finances. Oh my God, grooming is a lot of money.
It is expensive.
It really is. And you may think you can do it yourself, but whenever you get to the nails and the pads and the behind the ears and all those places that need to have all those mats taken out, that's going to cost you money.
That's another thing you want to think of when you're thinking of your breed of dog, the type of fur they have. What kind of care? You know, they have those, well, your dogs probably need brushed all the time. They have
All
that
the
real
time.
fine, long hair. I have short dog. I have a short dog. I have a short-haired dog. So he doesn't typically need groomed. I'm able to do his nails because he just lays there and lets me do them. Not all dogs do. But Dexter's real good with that. So I don't typically have to take him to the groomer. But yeah, that's a big one you've got to think about.
Oh yeah.
Their physical, their fur and their nails especially.
My dogs get groomed at least once every 6 or 7 weeks. And these are long haired. These aren't the ones, I'm not talking about the poodles. I had the Shih Tzus and the Lhasas before that needed grooms constantly. But it cost me probably anywhere between $50 to $75 every time my dogs go to the groomer.
Yeah, and
That's a lot of money.
every 6 weeks. Yeah, it adds up quick. Yeah.
So let's talk about, one thing we haven't talked about is whether a dog has to be spayed or neutered. Because some come already spayed or neutered from some of the shelters.
Right, and then some, I know the Crawford County shelter here, there's a certain time frame, you have to bring back proof that you have had the dog spayed or neutered, unless they already have been when they come in. But both dogs I've gotten, and I can't remember the time frame, but you have to bring back proof that you've had your dog spayed or neutered, and then they reimburse you some, but I always just donate it back because they just use that for whatever you need here at the shelter. But
talk about the fact that some of them come like that. Some of the shelters already spayed and neutered the dogs too.
Yeah, and which is wonderful. And you got to also remember when you're adopting a dog, there's fees involved in that as well. And you want to check to see if your dog is chipped or if the shelter will chip them. I know most shelters do chip them before they go home. And some of them do spay and neuter them before they go home with you. So that's another thing you want to look into with the shelters. And another thing we need to touch on, speaking of chipped, and all of that, before you get a dog, make sure that you have a veterinarian. Look into the different ones in your local area and make sure that you've got one lined up that you can take your dog to. And you don't, you can change vets too, just like as a human, you can change your doctors. Find one that's suitable and works for you, but also remember you're bringing a new dog and it's like you have a toddler, a lifetime toddler, and there's expenses with that. So just remember, and that a lot of times people, they choose a vet that's a little less expensive than another one. Now, some of them are very expensive.
Right.
Some are very expensive, and some, there's going to be an expense no matter what. Find the one that's best for you and best for your dog, of course.
Talk to your other friends that are pet owners, because the reputation of a veterinarian is important too.
Absolutely.
And do they have, what are their office hours? Are they taking new clients? You don't want to be stuck on a day whenever the dog has done something stupid and you need to get to a vet and no one's going to take you. Now you're off to the emergency place again. So you need to get into that situation and see if they're taking new clients, and then see if you can say, well, I have a new puppy and I'd like to bring that puppy down to have its first examination since I got it. Then you can kind of ease in there too. So that's kind of important too. And then you've got the shots.
Yeah, just like a baby.
Oh my God.
You gotta get your booster shots and all that. It all costs money.
It does, and it costs a lot of money.
So you've got to, having a dog is an amazing thing. It just fills your life, really, really adds something amazing to your life. And you want to be the same for them because you are their whole entire world. So you've got to make sure you've got the time and the money. And unfortunately, money is a big part of being a pet parent.
And if I don't take the time to think about all the things that we've been talking about, what sometimes happens to that dog? Goes back to the shelter.
Ends up back in the shelter.
Right,
and that happens way too often.
Well, we had a lot of that happen during COVID. The people that were home alone, home alone, home alone, and then suddenly decide, oh, I need a dog because I'm here all the time in my house and I can't go anywhere. So they got a dog, didn't put any thought into it, probably got the wrong breed,
Right.
weren't ready for it, didn't have anything done, didn't have the dog beds or anything else, and now all of a sudden it's starting to cost a lot of money. And COVID is shutting people down financially.
Right.
And then what happened? I can't take care of this dog anymore.
Can't take care of the dog, or had to go back to work. Now what do I do with the dog for 9 hours a day when I'm not home? Yeah.
That's tough.
All kinds of stuff to think about, folks. All kinds of stuff to think about. And then training the dog.
You got to train a dog and you have to socialize a dog. That is so important.
Socializing, yes.
Uh-huh.
Please do that.
We have really a problem with that, and as you know, and some of the people that watch know, I have the therapy dogs, and when people say, what's it take for my dog to be a therapy dog? And I said, well, number one, training, but number two, God so much hope that you have socialized that dog, because a dog that's not socialized is more trouble to you, because that generally means that every time somebody comes to your house or another dog or you're walking, you're going to have additional issues that you weren't even thinking about.
Right. And socialize, and sometimes dogs don't take to it. And,
No.
and I'm going to bring a good example in Dexter. I love him. He's a big goofball. He is really like the perfect dog at home. He listens to everything I say. With people, he's perfect. If I take him to a local park to go walking and he sees another dog, he loses his mind. He acts like he has never been trained on anything. He acts like he has no idea what I'm saying to him. He pulls and jumps and barks. It's because he wants to play. He gets ridiculously over-the-top exuberant, and I've had him for 6 years. I have not been able to break him on that.
Well, absolutely. And if I see you and you're coming towards me, what do I think? Get the heck away from that dog. That dog's
exactly.
mean.
So if I see, and I don't just continue to walk towards people, I will go way off the path and stand and wait until people pass. Not everybody does that. I do, though. So a little hint for you. But yeah, he loses his mind around other dogs. Like, he's never seen another dog, and he's never learned a command or been trained at all. But in any other circumstance, he was here before. He laid here and
was
slept
wonderful
the entire time.
But I bet had I walked in with mine,
He would have lost his mind.
yes, that would have happened. For sure. That's not good.
No. And I can't break him of that. I've tried and tried and tried. And we go to this local park regularly so I can continue to try and train him. The only time he settles is once he gets tired, and that's after we've been walking at a brisk clip for about 40 minutes. Then he's tired out, and then acts normal, not like he's a crazy dog.
Well, there's also a lot to be said for outside stimuli. In other words, getting them into a training class. That really does help. And that helps as far as socializing.
Right.
And also, later on as time goes on, when you think about getting a dog, I'm like into therapy dogs. So the dogs I get, I've got to have the breed that I think is going to be able to handle this. Although my first therapy dog, which was my best, and everybody remembers him, and he started with me, and I didn't even know that he could do it, or he would be very good at it, but he was excellent at it because he had the temperament for it. So I knew that was going to be true. So whenever I was getting another dog, and someone said, what are you going to get? And I said, I think I'm going to get a little dog, because I had just lost my 2 little ones, and I liked the little dog in the nursing home. And then I thought, I don't think I want to deal with an ankle biter or a possible ankle biter and getting that stopped. So I turned around and went back to my standby, the collies, because I know I've got a pretty good chance of them being good, and that's what I did. So I was thinking the whole time I was planning on another dog once I lost one, what's the breed that's going to let me continue with the things that I like to do? Because sometimes people get one and they come to me and they say, I want my dog to be a therapy dog, and I think, that dog's going to take someone's arm off. That's never going to work. So you've got to look at your future of what you're looking at too.
Right.
And are you someone that likes to go to dog parks? Are you a person that believes that the dog should be able to go into Home Depot and all those places like that? I'm not. I don't take my dog ever to those places. But if that's important to you, then you've got to have a dog that's going to be good at that. And I think you have to have a dog that's well accepted by society. If I walked in, again, I like collies, but if I had a Doberman here and a German Shepherd here and a Rottie and a Collie, most people will be more afraid of a Rottie at a German Shepherd and a Dobie than they are of a Collie, or maybe some of the other smaller dogs or laid-back dogs. The Golden Retrievers are good examples of that too. So a lot of people judge you according to what type of dogs you have too.
And I think that that's also because they haven't educated themselves on that breed.
That breed. Mm-hmm.
And any large dog, any animal has the capacity to be mean, just like humans.
Absolutely.
Just like humans. It's up to the human to train. There is no bad dogs, I don't believe.
I don't think there is either.
I think there's humans that are bad at training or don't train. Bad owners, right.
Mm-hmm.
Bad pet parents. Judgmental, yes. Factual, yes.
Then they say, I'll see a dog and I'll say, well, could I come to your house? And if I walked in your house and they said, oh no, the dog has to be put in the back room and locked up and everything. Well, see, I don't want that life either. So that's another thing that you learn at training classes. And I'm hoping to get Robin Peterson, who many people know, who runs Red Ball Dog Academy, to come in and do a program a little bit on the different breeds and a little bit on the basic training, because you just got to start. So let's review.
Yeah,
what are the things we're
awesome.
looking for? First thing we're looking for is, we said in the very beginning, we want to make sure that you've got the money to do this, the finances.
Yeah, time, physical ability, and money.
Absolutely. And what's the last one we added?
We did add one, and I don't recall.
Breed. Find out about the breed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, look into, and I'm the one who came up with it, and I still forgot it. Yes, breeds.
And we also want to check out where the various shelters are around you. And most cities have shelters. Most counties have a shelter. It depends on whether or not they're paid by your tax dollars and this, that, and everything else. But no matter whether you're watching me from someplace in Crawford County or you're watching this program because you live in the middle of Colorado or Minnesota or wherever it is, check around and see where the shelters are. Find out what that shelter believes in. Find out where they get their dogs. Find out everything you can about that shelter and what do they do as far as the procedure for adopting a dog. Some of them will let you walk in the door and walk out the door without even filling in too much information. Others will have you fill in a whole bunch of paper before you can even get a dog. So if you're going on Saturday and deciding, I'm going to the shelter today and get a dog, it doesn't always work.
Yeah, for most, at least the ones I know of now, and I'm sure that there's many that don't, there's a wait time.
Right,
there's an application process. There's also an introductory process to see if you as the human are going to bond with this dog. And if it doesn't work, you can be turned down. So don't think just because you're walking into a shelter, you're going to get yourself a dog. Find the right dog for you and your family and the circumstances that you have and how you live, an apartment, house, country, city. All of those things you have to take into consideration.
Are you going to put up a fence? A backyard fence?
Right.
We didn't say that, but I don't know how I would live without my fence. Because it's open the door and the dog goes out, and then it's a lot better than having to put a leash on and walk them every time.
That's where training comes.
Yeah,
Dexter's never on a leash,
right.
And I'm in the country and he kind of runs free, but he also listens, except for when we go to the park.
Then he doesn't listen.
Then he loses his mind.
But those are the things that you also want to think about, and you want to make sure that you're covering all those things, and check out that shelter, and check out how they do it, and check out what you're going to have to do. And again, think about all those things as far as baby proofing or dog proofing, your house, which is in the same as baby proofing sometimes, and also what are the other things that you need to buy, and get those there. Are you going to put the dog in a dog bed? Are you going to throw a towel on the floor? Are you going to put a pillow on the floor? Where are they going to sleep? All those things, decide in advance. It's wonderful that you're adopting a dog. I think that's great, and I've done that, and I've had 2 rescues over the years, and I love the one more than life itself. But you've got to make sure that you are doing everything possible with that dog. And
It's a lot of work. Is it a lot of work prior? Yes, and it should be. But it's so worth it. Once that dog has settled in and you've got your routine and everything set, it's so worth it. Oh my goodness. Their little hearts they exist to please you and to love you. And what is bad about any of that? All of the effort and all the work that you put into it is so worth it. So please do so.
There's a dog out there waiting for everybody. There's a dog out there for everybody. Or there's a dog.
Yes. There's a dog that's out there. It's out there waiting for you.
Waiting for you to come and pick them up.
That's right.
Our hope is, this has been the second program of a series that we did, and now our third program. We're hoping to invite the local shelters to come in. Again, it'll be basically around the Crawford County, but a lot of the information that they will be giving you about what their shelter does will be something that you can use if you are living some other place in northwestern Pennsylvania and you can put that into effect in the things that you should be asking or looking into and seeing how that kennel runs. And that's important too. So our hope is to get some of our local shelters from Crawford County to come in and do a program so we can add that information to for our viewers, and so it makes your adopting of a dog successful. That's
yes,
really
educate
important.
yourself, and then I'm looking forward to having the shelters educate me. We can always learn something new and learn more. So yeah, educate yourself.
Okay, Kim, thanks very much. Hold your book up one more time.
Paw Prints on the Couch, folks. Get yourself a copy on Amazon.
There you go, on Amazon, and I hope to see you again sometime, and thank you very much for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.